Chapter 1 Introduction. The world has been changing rapidly throughout the last few decades. Children, instead of spending time outside, reading fairy tales, or simply spending time alone with their fantasies, are spending ever more time in the digital world. The same goes for most adults. Time for silent contemplation is scarce, and we are being bombarded by external influences. Although our internal world continues to develop rapidly, our internal world is often neglected and left in the dark. At the same time, our egos have grown to such degree that it is not hard to see that their inflation might lead to the destruction of our planet. Whether it is done by cutting down rainforests or whether someone's ego somewhere is hurt to such a degree that this person is tempted to hit a red button, thereby blowing our entire planet and our egos into oblivion. I am not here to judge these developments, however, after carefully analyzing Carl Jung's idea. It becomes evident that by neglecting most of our inner world is in favor of the external world, we are neglecting important aspects of ourselves. Simultaneously, an inflated ego is extremely dangerous, and as soon as we neglect other perhaps more crucial parts of ourself, the ego only being a small part of self, these inner forces will still find their way to the outside world. However, this time they will not be only ours to deal with. Instead, the entire world will become the victim of our inner conflicts. As Jung observed, whether inner conflicts are not made conscious, they will eventually make their way to the surface anyway, albeit in a much more unpredictable and dangerous manner. The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. That is to say, when the individual remains undivided and does not become conscious of his inner opposite, the world must perforce act out the conflict and be torn into opposite halves. When dealing with an inflated ego and inner crisis, Jung might be the most important individual to turn to for answers. More than 60 years after Jung's death in 1961, Jung's ideas and theories continues to change our perception of ourselves. Thanks to the work of researcher and editor Sonu Shamdasani, we are now able to study and read the original sources of Jung's theories with the Red Book, published in 2009, and the Black Books, published in 2020. Jung himself indicated that all of his most important ideas originated from the fantasies and dreams which he documented within these initial works, the Red Book and the Black Books. All my works, all my creative activity has come from those initial fantasies and dreams which began in 1912. As the editor of the Black Books, Sonu Shamdasani indicated on the back of the book, as said as well, the Black Books were the most important unpublished work written by Jung up until last point. Arguably, however, these books, being the sources of Jung's theories, they are the most important works written by Jung overall. Simultaneously, Shamdasani pointed out that correct understanding of Jung's ideas without taking the contents of the Red Book and the Black Books into account would be impossible. It would be like writing the life of Dante without Commedia or Goethe without Faust. As a result, although numerous exceptional books have been written on the idea of Jung, It was until the black books were published in 2020 not possible to accurately incorporate Jung's initial fantasies and dreams into such a book. Since Jung himself equally stressed the major importance of these initial fantasies for his later theories, it is hard to disagree with Samdasani. Jung's ideas can hardly be discussed properly without taking Jung's initial experiences into account. As a result, it is worthwhile to deeply contemplate Jung's astonishing theories in a new light, considering the insights on Jung's theories in which we can now acquire from Jung's initial works. At the same time, it is equally interesting to see how Jung's theories can guide us through the 21st century, where the internal world is often neglected in favor of the external world, and we consider our egos to be the most important parts of ourselves. Interestingly, as discussed throughout this book, the content of the Black Books and the Red Book, and the way in which these books have been written is, at least, untypical. For some, it might simply be strange, unbelievable, and unscientific. For others, it might be extremely impressive, thought-provoking, and even life-changing. Hopefully, after reading this book, you will be able to form your own opinion on this matter. Whatever one's opinion, however, it is undeniable that Jung's theories have impacted the world's psychology significantly. At the same time, it can be argued that they have had a larger cultural impact as well. We regularly use Jung's vocabulary to describe our own or other people's behavior, personality. Had Jung published the content of the Red Book and the Black Books earlier, would Jung ideas still have attracted such a large audience? I'm inclined to think that this would not have been the case, and that we would have been quick to describe Jung's theories as absurd, mainly as a result of the method which he used to develop them. I believe that Jung himself was aware of this as well. Jung described not to publish the contents during his lifetime, and in the Red Book indicated that his undertaking might appear as a form of insanity to the unsuspecting observer. As a result, an interesting situation has emerged. Jung's theories and concepts have been extremely influential, and some of his theories have become widely accepted. However, decades after Jung's death, Jung's methods for discovering and developing these ideas have become public. Prior to the publication of the Red Book, the works written by Jung which were available to public were filtered by Jung to a certain degree in order to remain rooted in science, as Jung himself indicated in his autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflection, and Discoveries, which Jung made during this period, had to be planted into the soil of reality prior to their publication. The knowledge I was concerned with, or was seeking, still could not be found in the science of those days. I myself had to undergo the original experience and, moreover, try to plant the results of my experience in the soil of reality. Otherwise, they would have remained subjective assumptions without validity. However, this also meant that we had to wait a long time for the disclosure of the source of Jung's most interesting thoughts and ideas. One such interesting thoughts can be found within the 4th volume of Black Books. It revolves around a captivating interaction Jung was having with a librarian. During this interaction, Jung discussed the idea of Friedrich Nietzsche, with the librarian. According to the librarian, individuals such as Nietzsche have been able to fill a void resulting from decrease in the importance of religious by writing their own book of prayers. Jung, however, argues that Nietzsche's philosophy can only fill this void for a select group of people, those that are too inhibited and require more freedom. Nietzsche's truth strikes me too agitated and provocative. It's good for those who are yet to be set free. Another group of people, those who might already be too free, are in need of different philosophy. According to Jung, a philosophy which provides them with certain boundaries and resignation. I have certainly discovered that we also need a truth for those who need constraint. It's possible that instead they need a depressive truth which makes men smaller and more inward. Before incapably heading towards the destruction of our species and our planet due to our inflated egos, such a smaller making and inward turning, truth might be of immense importance as a humbling factor. I believe that Jung, throughout his works, beginning with Black Books, explored such a truth extensively. As such, Jung was writing his own book of prayers, a book of prayer which revolves around the unconscious and the soul. As Samdasani indicated in the introductory volume of the Black Books, Jung's investigations portray the renewal of significance of the soul, whereas Zarathustra proclaimed the death of God. River Novus, the Red Book, depicts the rebirth of God in the soul. Correspondingly, it is the purpose of this book to discuss how the publication of the Red Book and the Black Books in recent years can shed a new light on Jung's theories and explore how they might have helped us deal with our current dilemmas. These dilemmas are largely created by conflicts arising within ourselves, combined with a society which lacks the compensating factor resulting from a loss of tradition, myth, and mystery. Does Jung proclaim the rebirth of the soul throughout his initial fantasies and dreams, and can the soul be the source of a new myth for the 21st century? In order to answer this question, this book first discusses what the Black Books and the Red Books are, and they were written by Jung in the first place. Hereafter, several of the most important concepts developed by Jung are discussed in order to form a correct interpretation of the concepts presented within the Black Books and the Red Book. This is followed by a discussion on why the contents of these books might still be of interest to us in the 21st century, where myth and mystery have lost their prominence. Next, the contents of the Black Books and the Red Books are discussed in detail in order to analyze how they can add to our understanding of Jung's theories. Subsequently, it is discussed how the observations made by Jung might be the source of a new kind of myth. Besides using Jung's works as a source of discussing this topic, this book also incorporates the idea of several other authors, most of whom are either influenced by Jung or had an important influence on Jung.